we're going to watch a speech that Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, he did in Shelby Park recently. He had a number of representatives from the state of Texas, and he really dials in why he is doing what he's doing, what his goals are, what his expectations are, and why he is doing this in the face of, the court system saying, you can't have that razor wire up. He's doubling down. Let's get into it. Let's watch this video. Here we go. So this is Shelby Park. This is Texas. This is the weekend of the 4th, I think it was.
Thank everybody for being here today. I am joined by members of the Texas legislature, and we're here to explain to America that we are dealing with the biggest border crisis since America had borders. It's all because Joe Biden allowed this entire area to be penetrated by the drug cartels that smuggled in illegal immigrants. If you see an area that is boxed off by a container that has razor wire on the container or on the ground or on the fence, those are areas that illegal immigrants were once able to cross that are now unable to cross. And the reason why we've been able to achieve that level of decrease in illegal crossings is only because of great teamwork in agencies across the state of Texas. First, an update about some numbers from the Texas Department of Public Safety. They have made over 39,000 criminal arrests. They have apprehended more than 480,000 illegal migrants. They've deterred more than 95,000 illegal entries and engaged in more than 4,300 bailouts. They have filed more than 19,000 charges for smuggling. Those charges for smuggling now face a new consequence because of members of the legislature who stand behind me. They passed a bill that I signed into law that increases the mandatory minimum time behind bars for smugglers to 10 years. If you smuggle somebody into or through and across the state of Texas illegally, you'll be spending a long time behind bars.
As you should.
In addition to what the Texas Department of Public Safety has been doing, we've also had unprecedented success by the Texas National Guard. They have more than 1 million encounters with illegal immigrants. They have turned back more than 90,000 people who were trying to get into the country illegally. In addition to what they're doing through other agencies and in part through what the National Guard themselves are doing, there have been more than 160 miles altogether of barriers placed up, not counting the border wall. They include the razor wire, fencing, anti-climb barriers, these Connex boxes, and the buoys that are in the river. Those together add up to more than 160 miles of barriers that have been placed up. Also, Texas is the first.
I don't know if you've seen how they put this stuff up, but they're bringing trucks in 160 miles. That is a massive, massive amount of construction. It's just absolutely crazy that that's what's going on. Greg Abbott, 160 miles. I mean, the amount of construction that he's doing, you're talking about 10-foot sections at a time. Just chunk, 160 miles of those. It's literally a military operation. It is Operation Lone Star. And this year, even though Abbott has been doing his thing recently, this is the first year in fiscal year this early. We just crossed 1 million border encounters in the fiscal year, which started in October, the beginning of October. And so the numbers are way up historically because of what happened in December, November and December. The October, November, December, they ramped up. And in December, there was just an all-time high. One of the reasons for that is I'm told and I've read is that all over the world, a rumor was sent out that the one app, the federal app, was going to be shut down and the U.S. border was going to be shut down. So that rumor went out there. And so anybody that was anywhere close just booked it double time to get to the U.S.-Mexico border. And that's why you had as many as you did in December. I don't know if that's true. I mean, it sounds reasonable because why else would you have this massive spike, right? The spike in December of 302,034. Let's keep going here.
It only stated in the history of the United States of America to build our own border wall. If you look at the amount of wall already constructed and the amount of wall that is going to be under construction, Texas will have built more of the Trump border wall than even Trump built in the state of Texas.
That's interesting.
Now, the results are amazing. If you look at what has changed with regard to illegal border crossings in the past half year or so, you see that even though Texas represents about 2/3 of the border, we represent only about 30% of the crossing.
It's 1,254 miles is Texas's section along the U.S.-Mexico border.
The lead crossing areas are California, Arizona, and New Mexico that represent 70% of the crossings. Now, unlike before, migrants are choosing to go to states other than Texas. And that's because Texas has put up the resistance that it has. Early on, under the Biden administration, most of the migrants were coming through Texas. That's not true. The same is true for this area that we gather in right now. If you look at this massive park area, this is an area where you would regularly see 2,000, 3,000, maybe 4,000 people crossing the border illegally. Since this park has been taken over by the National Guard, the daily average is under 10 a day. It shows that deterrence can achieve results at decreasing illegal immigration. The only reason why it's not happening is because the President of the United States is not enforcing the laws that are already on the books. He does not need more laws.
That's the basis of all this right here. You don't need a bunch of extra legislation. You just need to do what is already on the books. Just follow those laws. Actually protect the border. It's not that hard to figure out. You know what I mean? And he breaks it down just so basic that I think most people are like, yeah. But anyway, let's get some more border legislation in there and let's give some billions to Ukraine and Israel. And
he has the tools in his toolbox to do exactly what Texas is doing, and that's to deny illegal entry into the country, which he is required to do by laws already passed by Congress. Part of the teamwork that we're seeing is tremendous leadership by the Texas National Guard to look forward about where we are going. We are working with the Texas National Guard on strategies to both add and to accommodate more National Guard in this area. We will also work with the National Guard to continue their strategies of adding more miles of razor wire and anti-climb barrier. To also recognize another branch of government in Texas that is a partner in this effort, and that's the legislative branch. The tools and strategies that DPS, the National Guard, that I and others have to do anything to secure the border would not exist if it weren't for the efforts of the members of the Texas House of Representatives. I want to have some of them speak at this time, including the Chair of House Appropriations, Chairman Greg Abbott.
Thank you, Governor. Governor, thank you for your leadership on this issue. I remember in mid-2021, the governor asked to visit with me in his office. He had already initiated Operation Lone Star. And what he shared in that visit was that the problem at the border was of a magnitude that we had never before experienced. And efforts and initiatives we had taken in the past were simply going to be insufficient. We needed a new plan, and it was going to require great resources. And since that moment, with Governor Abbott's leadership and with Speaker Phelan's leadership, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and all of the members of the House of Representatives that you see here, we have been unwavering in our commitment to step into the gap and to address a chaotic crisis where the federal government has refused to address and enforce our immigration laws. When you look at the appropriations for border security under the 4 years of the Trump administration in Texas, that was $1.6 billion. For the 4 years of the Biden presidency, Texas is appropriating $11.6 billion to do the same thing. And what we're seeing is that deterrence does work. And the park in which you're standing right now is proof positive of where once there was chaos and several thousand people a day coming across, it has slowed to an almost non-existent number. So it can be done. When you break down the effort, about $3.1 billion goes into barriers and border infrastructure. About $200 million, because Texas has banned sanctuary cities in our state, goes to transporting illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities in other parts of the United States. And the balance is spent on the Texas Military Department and the Department of Public Safety for human resources and operations, and we thank them for the great work that they're doing. And the thing that everybody should understand is that the governor, the speaker, lieutenant governor, and all of the members who you see before you stand firmly committed that as long as there is an absence of the federal government doing its job to secure our international border, we will step up and take their place.
Thank you very much. Next is Representative.
So I think what's super interesting to note is that all of these individuals are working. They're all on the same page. They're like, okay, we get it. So, because here in Washington, if you had one entity that was doing something slightly wonky, you'd have other entities going, that's not what we're doing. And you'd have some other entity going, oh, yeah, double up. I mean, it would just be there's no coherent effort. In Texas, you've got, public safety, you've got military department, you've got the state troopers arresting people because they have the ability to now get these illegals in front of judges, and judges, they're going to go through this system where they basically deport them. I mean, so even if you have all of what Abbott is talking about, you've got the razor wire, you've got the manpower at the border, you've got to have this backbone of the legislative system, which they have, which Texas has said, no sanctuary cities. We're not doing that. That's not what we're doing. And by the way, if we arrest you, if we get to you first before Border Protection does, so now it's literally a race. So does Border Protection pick us up, or does Texas National Guard? Because if Texas National Guard does, they're going to turn us over to the state police, state troopers, and we're host. We're going to get deported. That is what's going on. And that's why immediately the pressure has been put on the borders elsewhere, New Mexico, Arizona, California. So that's why initially Greg Abbott had the 15 Republican governors. Number one, they went down there. They were there the weekend I was there. And then they had this group of representatives. So he's doing kind of regional, all the Republican governors that are supporting him one weekend, and then another weekend, couple of weekends later, he's got the people that are the legislative backbone behind him. And that's what we're looking at right now.
Representative Spiller.
Yes.
Come on up.
Texans know that the Biden administration has completely failed and refused to secure our border and enforce federal immigration policy. Our cries for help, our demands for help have been ignored. We've had enough in Texas. And so with my help, I carried, and we, with the group here today, passed, and with Governor Abbott's signature, passed SB 4, the strongest border security bill in the history of our state and the history of our nation. For the first time ever, we're allowed to prosecute people coming into our state illegally from a foreign nation if they cross someplace other than a lawful port of entry. It's a landmark bill that allows Texans to protect Texas, allows us to return those that arrive here illegally and to prosecute and incarcerate those that refuse to comply. And so
incarcerate.
It's completely constitutional because it's in compliance with the precedent set in the Arizona case. It's not preempted by existing federal immigration law. It's not in conflict with federal immigration law that's in place. And mostly, Texas has the constitutional right and authority to secure its border. And so we're proud of that bill. The Biden administration continues to fight us. They're spending more effort to fight us than they are to secure the border. And we look forward to that fight in the court. I know his Department of Justice has filed a suit to contest that. To that, I would say bring it. We're ready for that fight.
Bring it.
So I would look forward to continue with the opportunity to work with this group of conservative representatives to continue to protect Texas and our country. Look forward to working with Governor Abbott and his leadership. We thank him for that and the job that he's done so that Texas leads the way to show others how we protect our state and our country.
Thank you, Representative.
Don't
and now
mess
Representative
with
Vice
Texas.
Claire.
Every single legislator standing here represents a border district because every one of our districts is impacted by what comes across this border. Every state in our country is a border state because there is no state in the United States that is not impacted by the drugs, by the weapons, and by the humans that are trafficked across this border. American children are dying every day of fentanyl in every single state that comes across this border. Women who are being trafficked across this border are sold into sex slavery every day and trafficked through the cartel network across our country. And let me make one thing very clear. There is not a single person coming across that is free. Every single one of them is paying a very dear price to the cartel. They are paying with their money, they are paying with their bodies, and they are paying by being sold into indentured servitude. And President Biden is not just supporting it, he is encouraging it. Instead of protecting Americans, he is protecting the cartels. They are making more money off of his failure at the border than they ever have before. And Governor Abbott and the
How do you even, that is the case. That is literally what's going on. How, as the Biden administration, do they defend this? On what planet can you defend? Oh, yeah, I mean, border protection. Yeah, they're just meant to help get these folks, these poor folks down on their luck in. Well, how are they getting in? Well, it's costing them $4,000 a pop, right? They put $1,000 down. And the cartel gladly will carry it, especially for the cute ladies, carry that $3,000, right? They're going to get their money. Cartel is going to get their money. And so now you've got all of these illegals coming into the United States, and they've got all these connections on money that they owe. So, what do you say about border protection when this is literally how it's going and what's going on? How can the Biden administration come back with, well, we really need to cut this razor wire and help these folks get in? In what world does that make sense? Because now the narrative has changed. All these folks in these sanctuary cities, they're seeing resources dedicated once to them now being sent to these illegals that have massive debts that are affiliated basically with the cartel, whether they like it or not. How do you justify all this? It's a really bad look, isn't it? It's no longer the southern border's problem. It's no longer Texas's problem. It's the rest of the U.S. And the fentanyl that's gone through. I mean, look at me. I'm a perfect example. I'm all the way up in Seattle. My son took a Xanax bar and died. Seattle's about as far away from the southern border as you get on the West Coast. You got Bellingham a little further north, but as far as big city goes, we're the end of the road. And it's impacting things hugely here, mainly because it's Seattle, it's Freeattle, and all that stuff. Let's hear what else she has to say.
Texas legislature are stepping into that gap. And let me tell you, we will not give up. Texans are no stranger to being put under pressure, to having to stand up for what we believe in. And this is our moment. Governor Abbott is supported by Republican governors from across this country, many of whom are sending troops here to help us. The real heroes are the DPS officers in the Texas National Guard who are serving every day away from their families to make sure that Texans and every American are safe. And the legislators behind me are ready to give the governor the tools and the resources and the funding that he needs to keep this fight going. This is the number one issue, not just to my district, not just to this state, but to Americans across the country. And so to every American out there, Texas has your back. Governor Abbott has your back. And Governor Abbott is doing the job that President Biden refuses to do. And we will never give up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And a big thank you to all these members of the Texas legislature. Texas would not be in a position to do what we're doing without them and the laws they pass, the efforts they've undertaken. And so I thank all of you all very much for what you've done, for being here, and what we will continue to do. With that, we'll take a few questions.
Governor, the presser that we were sent, you talked about an announcement. What was the announcement? We already heard that announcement, or is there something else that you would like to add to, the importance of being here with all of us here?
Well, for one, the importance of the people who join me today is the fact is the wire that you see preventing illegal entry, the Connex boxes that you see, the soldiers that you see, the Texas Department of Public Safety that you see, none of that would be here but for the people who stand with me today. As far as future announcements, listen, we being my office, we're working with the Texas National Guard on strategies to make sure that we're going to find ways that we will be able to both add and accommodate more soldiers being deployed in this area. And more details will be provided in the future.
At what point, Governor, would you be willing? You're a Christian person. A lot of people, even Democrats are Christians, something like that. So, without going too deep into religion, there will be a moment where you'll be willing to sit down and have a conversation, at least with the opposite side, as to meet me here, I'll meet you there. Is there a possibility of that?
So let's be clear about two things. One is I've attempted that. I have provided 8 letters to President Biden and his administration asking for certain actions. I've received exactly 0 response. One of those letters I handed to him personally, to his hand. It was a single page. It was not complicated, and I explained exactly what needed to be done in order to secure the border. At that same meeting, I handed the exact same letter to Secretary Mayorkas, who said that he would work with us. And of course, he has not. So the Biden administration has done nothing to work with us, despite me reaching out.
Mayorkas is too busy getting impeached
On 8 different times. That said, there is a key factor that we insist on, and that is the beginning of our discussions starts with the enforcement of the rule of law. There are laws on the books as we speak right now that don't need to be added, that don't need to be changed, that do 2 things. It denies illegal entry into the United States of America, and it requires the president, the executive branch, to detain them if they do get in illegally. Those 2 laws are not being followed. Negotiations begin once the Biden administration starts enforcing the laws.
Governor, is there any plans right
I'll get you.
That's as basic as it gets, right? That is so basic. So basic. But when you hear Biden talk, he's like, give me the money. Give me the power to do it. Oh, wait a minute. I've already got the power. I'm going to do some executive actions. He's all over the board. Meanwhile, Greg Abbott, from my perspective here in Seattle, and also having gone there a couple of times and looking around, I'm going to live stream what's going on here, guys. It's the situation that isn't that complex. You just have to do those 2 things. And, you've got a wildly different outcome. And we are seeing a wildly different outcome right now.
You both.
Governor, is there any plans right now from the state of Texas to expand similar operations that you are seeing here in Shelby Park? I know you are touting the success in the plummeting of illegal crossings. Or any plans right now to expand similar operations?
I know it's hard to hear.
Will seize control of certain parts of the border right now?
So yes, we are working on expansion plans to expand the successful operations that we've seen in certain locations that deter illegal immigration. And some of those will be announced after they occur. Others will be announced beforehand. But just know this, and that is the National Guard is relentless. On a daily basis, they're adding more razor wire barriers, more anti-climb barrier, more other ways to repel people from trying to enter illegally. And I got to emphasize this, and that is in doing so, there's actually been a dramatic reduction in drownings in the river by more than 50%. If people are enticed to cross a treacherous river, they will cross that river and some will lose their lives. One thing we know for a fact, right behind you is a bridge that people are walking across as we speak. No one drowns on a bridge. No one drowns on a bridge. You might have seen me live stream. Did I live stream? I live streamed across the bridge. I think I did. Yeah. Nobody drowns on a bridge. That needs to be on a t-shirt, right? It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Bridge, not in the water. Huh. Walk up and over. So why does the Biden administration have this thing where, okay, so you swam over, now we'll help you? Instead of literally, they are swimming instead of going down the riverbank. And, I've got a video showing this is how we do it. You walk down this big concrete, directional thing and you end up at the river. They're doing the same thing, but they're risking their lives because they're going across the razor wire. Instead of that, let's just drop all this pretense and let's just have them walk across the bridge and bring them in that way. Because at least then they don't drown. That's what Abbott is saying. And it's kind of just this ridiculous notion of we've got a closed border, and we have not had a closed border until most recently. And, it's not closed, but there's a lot more pressure being put on it than before. It's cut by razor wire on a bridge. If people tried to enter the country through the pathway created by Congress as the pathway into the country, lives would be saved.
And with the Biden administration right now is weighing the decision whether to pursue legal action regarding the operations here in Shelby Park. Whether the Biden administration pursues a legal action, would that affect any decision made by Texas?
So I actually hope the Biden administration takes legal action about this area, because I want to make one thing perfectly clear. One reason why this area is occupied by the state of Texas is to prevent the Biden administration from any further violation of federal law on this Texas land. They are violating two laws required by Congress. Congress requires the federal government to deny illegal entry. The Biden administration used this park to aid illegal entry into our country. And then secondly, you saw the masses, the thousands that they allowed together in this park for processing and then to be sent elsewhere in the United States. That's mass parole. Congress has specifically prohibited mass parole into the United States. What Texas is doing right now is we are the ones actually enforcing laws passed by Congress. Biden is breaking those laws. And we look forward to our day in court where we are able to tell America the way that Joe Biden is violating the laws that are on the books by Congress right now. I felt that was, as good of an explanation right from the horse's mouth that you're gonna see. And the fact that it was basically one long live stream was like, there's he's not talking to his advisors. He's not getting information. He's not, being talked to by anybody. He's there just delivering his message. Whether you agree with his message or not, it is incredibly basic. And if the rest of the country were able to see this kind of thing, which they're not, because people just aren't paying attention. They're not tuning in. What's that nut job down in Texas talking about? Got a bunch of guys surrounding them with cowboy hats. I had a bunch of people ask me, Sean, did you get a cowboy hat when you were in Texas? No, I didn't get a cowboy hat. But that's just, I'm not a cowboy hat kind of guy, right? So that's Greg Abbott. Whether you like him, whether you don't, the guy is doing work and he is having an impact on the situation. The 22,000 illegals
that bum rushed the shores of Shelby Park and the Rio Grande on the eastern side of the Rio Grande, they're not coming through in 22,000 in a week before Christmas. We're not doing that anymore. That is being spread out now well across the entire southern border, and more importantly, going more up to the West Coast. And as this spring season, we're in February now, as we go February, March, April, and the numbers start to increase, it'll be really interesting to see the shenanigans that happen in other parts of the country. So, okay, I'm going to wrap up on this one. Thank you so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. Hit the like button for this video if you enjoy this. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.